Hey, so today we're gonna make some cookies and cream cheesecake. I love cheesecake, and because I'm celiac, I cannot have regular Oreos, and I could make my own, or I could use day-old chocolate cake. Well, in this case, like 3-day-old chocolate cake to achieve what I want. So, first, I'm gonna have a sip of coffee on my favorite mug. And then we're gonna start. Okay, so I did a little bit of prep to start with. I'll show you with the crème. So this is 3-day-old chocolate cake that I crumbled, and then I put in the oven on 120°C for about 45 minutes. And what you get is some crumbs, like really serious crumbs happening here, right? So for your average crumble crust, like cheesecake crust, you would use graham crackers, or you would use, well, any kind of cookie really. And you would mix it with melted butter and sometimes sugar. In this case, I mean, it's chocolate cake. How much sugar do I need? But I am going to use butter. You could use sunflower butter. You could use just about anything with a fat content. You could probably even get away with like whole yogurt, mixing it. I'm not sure how it would bake, but you could try it. So first I'm gonna melt the butter. As you can see, I've already parchment papered my springform pan, because apparently today words. You could use a food processor. You could use a stick blender. You could use a pestle and mortar. You could just use hands, and I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's that's pulverizing pretty well. Crushing these dried out cake crumbs. If you do join the chat, please say hi in chat, because I can't see who joins, because, you know, blind. But if you say hi, my voiceover will read it to me. So there's that. You could obviously, if you're not gluten intolerant, you could obviously just crush up some Oreos. It'd be equally as fast. I'm gonna save some of these crumbs, obviously, because I want in the cheese. For those of you who don't know, I lost my sight 2.5 years ago. Before that, I could see just fine. And I'm not what some people think of as fully blind, as in I have some perception, but it's not as much as I let people think it is. And I'm legally blind. So that's why I call myself Blind Girl. This is Blind Girl's cookie. So we have our crumbs. Gonna have some more coffee, because coffee. But you might ask, how do you know? How can you see if it's melted? Well, in my case, you know, if you swirl it around and there's a liquidy swirl happening. Let's see if I can adjust the camera a bit to show this. Then it's probably melted. You know, like if there's not a big huge chunk situation happening. So now I'm mixing the butter in with the cake crumbs. I am not to add sugar to this, and I would suggest that if you grind up any kind of manufactured cookie or cake dry out, that you do not add sugar, because, I mean, you don't really need it in the scheme of things. Okay, so spread that in our pan. First, I'm gonna turn on the oven. You might ask, how do I turn on the oven? On my oven, I'm not sure what you can see here, but there are raised little dots at the 100, 150, and 170. And I am gonna go for 175, setting it for an hour and 10 minutes, and it's bottom heat only. Uh, Now we're gonna pat our crumbs down into our pan. We hope that we have enough because I don't really feel like doing a bunch more. Now, ideally, you want this to cover every little bit. I am not going to run my fingers across every little bit to make sure that it actually does. You can see, tell if it does. I can't see, so I can't tell if it does. But if it doesn't, it's you know. By the way, you can join my Discord. I'll post that in a moment once I'm done arguing with this crust. You know, I'm not gonna argue with it for forever. Alright, that's gonna be 10 minutes. Now for the next part. First step. Always wipe down your area. Kind of a thing. It drives me crazy when people keep their kitchen a disaster. So I have in my mixer, I have 800 grams of mascarpone. I have, I'm about to put 6 eggs in, and then some sugar, and then cookie crumbs. Well, cake crumbs. So 6 eggs. A cup of white sugar, but my white sugar doesn't get delivered until tomorrow. So I am using about 2/3 of a cup of dark sugar, which, I mean, if you wanted the cookies and cream look, you would not want to use, you know, brown sugar, because it's not going to look that way. But I'm blind, so I don't care. And then we're going to get out the vanilla. You could steep your own vanilla. You can use vanilla extract. But either way, you want vanilla. And we are gonna set that mixing. A little bit. While that mixes, can you guess what I'm gonna do? Right, so if you watch my stream at all, you know that as a visually impaired person, it is super important that I keep things clean and put away. So, you can see that's mixing. The cake is, the bottom of it is baking. So while we wait, I am just going to wash up the dishes. If you wanted a lighter cheesecake, you could use 6 egg whites and 3 full eggs, and you could beat the eggs and the egg whites before you add the mascarpone, and that does add a much lighter texture. In this case, I mean, it's cookies and cream, so I want it to be thick and heavy and delicious, like cookies and cream. So, the cheesecake mixture is still going. You can't really, if you're using actual mascarpone or even Philly cream cheese, you can't really overmix it. I mean, I guess if you left it for a half an hour, you might, but why would you leave it for a half an hour? You want to be able to eat this thing, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about how cheesecakes work in the oven. And I'm not sure if you've ever tried to make a cheesecake and it was too eggy, or the crust cracked on it, the top crust, or it was too loose, or it was too firm. It's the thing that a lot of people struggle with their cheesecakes, is things being the problems with cheesecakes. So, which brings up another topic actually. So, if I'm scraping out a bowl, how do I know if I have scraped it clean? Well, I don't. I just have to do it methodically, like I do everything else. Great. So, we have in there the 800 grams of mascarpone. We have 6 eggs. We have about 3/4 cup of dark brown sugar. We're gonna put some flour in it, and we're gonna put some crumbs in it, and then we're gonna put it in the oven. Your cheesecake is too loose. What happened? By the way, I'm putting probably about a 1/2 cup of flour. This is Dove's free from plain gluten-free flour. And I am dumping the rest of the crumbs that I made previously in there. So, cheesecake is too loose. What happened? All right. What can make your cheesecake too loose is not enough egg, not enough flour. What makes cheesecake loose in the first place is the binding is not right. So what binds it? Well, I mean, if it's a baked cheesecake, what binds it is the egg and the flour. If it is a no-bake cheesecake, then what binds it is the gelatin. So, yeah, it really depends. In this case, it would be not enough egg, not cooked long enough, not enough flour. Those would be the things that made it too loose. Too thick, too much egg, too much flour. In this case, I mean, we have a pretty loose mixture, so it's going to come out fine. If you have some really thick mascarpone, then the mixture would be thicker. We are going to assume that this is done, our crust. Now I lined my springform pan with parchment, and then just to catch everybody up, we dried out a 3-day-old cake, and we crumbled it with some butter, and we just baked that. Now we're going to try not to run into an open oven. And now I have like the world's oldest springform pan, and it leaks like you would not believe. So, and my mixture's loose. So I'm just leaving it in a cookie tray so that if it does come out of the pan while it's cooking, it's not a horrible mess in my oven. Because guess who does not see messes in her oven very well? Oh yeah, that's me. So just pouring it into the pan now. How do you see the pan to know you're pouring it in there correctly? I don't. I'm guessing. But, I mean, you probably don't necessarily look either. So, that'll be alright. Now it's going to go into the oven at about 175 for 45 minutes to an hour. Which brings me to the next question you might ask. About cheesecake. My cheesecake cracked. What happened? Okay, so what makes cheesecake form is the egg thickening as it cooks with the cheese, right? But what makes it crack is when it cools too quickly, or if it got too hot. You don't want to cook this bad boy super hot. I mean, I'm starting it at 175 and I might drop it down to 150 depending on how it looks. If you're using a top and bottom bake, I would start it no higher than 150 and also probably use aluminum foil to cover the top. Because the thing is that you don't want to burn the top and you don't want to create scrambled eggs. So your cheesecake tastes like egg. What happened? You cooked it too high. That's the fact. If your cheesecake tastes like egg, you cooked it too high, and you scrambled your eggs inside the cheesecake. The same is true of bread pudding. I don't know how many of you like to have bread pudding, but if your bread pudding tastes like egg, you cooked it too high because then your eggs scrambled. Those are some of the common problems with cheesecake. When this is done baking, I am going to shut the oven off. How do I know it's done baking, you might ask? If I were to stick a knife in it, it would come out clean. But I'm not going to do that because that is definitely going to start a crack. For people who can see, if you shake the pan, it jiggles like jello. That's how you know it's done. For people who cannot see, if you touch it, it should feel a bit like jello. It should be a bit jiggly, honestly. And then you know it's done. And what you do then, this is important because you really don't want it to crack, right? What you do then is you shut the oven off, you wait about 10 minutes or so, you open the oven door, you wait a half an hour or so, you pull it out of the oven and put it on top of the stove or somewhere where it can come to room temperature. After it's come to room temperature, only after it's come to room temperature, do you put it in the fridge for 4 hours to 6 hours. And then voila,